Thank you, CI, for the very wonderful introduction, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to conduct a session on leasing for the MSME segment. We'll begin with our session to understand the basic definition and the concept of leasing. So I'm referring to the slide number 2 of the presentation, which has been circulated well in advance to one and all. Concept of leasing. Let me just take 2 minutes to make you understand the, explain the concept of leasing as it has been globally accepted. So leasing is a form of access to finance. It's a very, very important terminology to understand that leasing is actually an access to finance only, giving you the benefits of both financing and the operating benefit of the acquiring the asset. So it is basically a contract between two parties where one party, the lessor, that is a company like a Tata Capital or an independent lessor, provides an asset for use to another party, the lessee, for specific period of time in return for specified payments. So you may want to understand that what is the difference then between a leasing contract and a rental contract. Let me just take a minute to explain that. The basic difference here would be rental necessarily originates from the interest of the lessor or a company to buy an asset, invest in that asset, and then scout for partners or customers who would generally take the equipments on rent. And most importantly, these are generally for a very, very short period of time, anything ranging from 3 months to maybe up to 1 year or say about 24 months. Leasing, in opposition to that, is usually originated by the interest from the lessee, wherein a company who is in need of an asset wants an asset for the purpose of its business, but is not keen to invest in the asset because it requires some flexible options. We will come to it as we go forward in the presentation. So leasing is based on the proposition that income is earned through the use of assets rather than from the ownership. As I just explained, it originates from the lessee's demand, wherein the lessee feels that he needs the asset, but he needs it more for use rather than just wanting to own an asset. So here the focus is more on the lessee's ability to generate cash flow from business operations to service the lease payment rather than having an asset sitting on its balance sheet and being wedded to it or being locked with it for lifetime. So as we explain the benefits of operating leases, you'll know what are the differences between an operating lease contract and a rental contract and a normal loan or investment option. We go to the next slide, slide number 3. So let me just give you a global perspective to it. Usually we have seen in international markets, in mature economies or global economies, people generally believe in use of things rather than owning things vis-a-vis what we see in the Indian context. Abroad, the culture is largely, whether it is your home assets or your business assets, people generally prefer to, not own these assets and take it on use basis and then decide a future course of action on that basis. Now in Europe, if you see, leasing is perceived as the path towards sustainable growth. It enables up to 20% of all equipment investments. Now, even bank-owned companies are major players in the market. Most of the major banks like the BNP Paribas or the ABN AMRO or Society General of the world, they have actually floated independent companies, separate companies to carry on this leasing business. Because as I said, the culture over there is more to, use the equipment rather than own the equipment. So this itself shows that the importance given to this instrument by banks in developed economy like Europe. In USA, we know in fact USA actually showed the way to the world for leasing. It largely originated from there or became popular from the USA market. Even a normal handset or even the furniture or even the normal business assets, cars, everything, even the homes, whether it is real estate or mobile equipment or fixed assets, people generally prefer the lease route over there. So equipment finance accounts for about 900 billion of business each year, and this represents about 62% of total investment in capital goods from one of the sources that we have got this data. So the leasing penetration is expected to be anywhere between 30 to 40% in the USA, which is a big, big number. In Australia, again, acquiring an equipment through the lease route is a very, very mature way or a mature product over there. With lease and equipment finance facilitating around 40% of the nation's capital equipment expenditure in Australia, the industry is vitally involved in equipping of Australia's productive base. The volume of general equipment finance as of 2004, it's slightly outdated by about 3 years, but then it was about 37.7 billion as per the source of National Association for Equipment Leasing. In Japan again, it's been a very, very popular product. It accounts for, I think, in the range of between 7 to 10% of the capital investment. By contrast, if you see in the Indian context, the penetration in India is as low as 2%. And if you remove the one single large company which largely deals with the government sector only, the penetration is probably less than 1%. So we always feel that there is a great, great opportunity in the Indian market. When you compare to the size of the economy, the number of industries that are present in India, when you talk of the Make in India initiative, so the opportunity is huge in this segment. And the best part is we are seeing this change coming in. We are seeing this change coming in wherein people are now focused more on actually use of equipment rather than owning the equipment. And more companies from the large corporate, multinational, even government sector and the medium and small enterprises are today focusing on, acquiring the equipment through the lease route. Now, generally let me come to slide number 4. Generally, when we talk about lease, we need to understand that there are two types of leases. There is finance lease and there is operating lease. Finance lease, as the name suggests, is very, very akin to a loan transaction. It's merely a financing transaction. The benefit over here for the customer is that if it actually wants to, he or she, the company is very sure of, wanting to own the equipment, then this is the option for them. If they are very confident after a particular period of use, they want to own the equipment, then the lease is structured in such manner wherein the lessor confirms to the lessee that at the end of the term, after having decided for a fixed period of lease, the equipment will actually be transferred back to the lessee at a fixed predetermined price. Now the disadvantage over here is what? The rentals will obviously be little higher. It is also called as a full payout lease. And in the balance sheet or in the books of account of the lessee, the treatment is no different from a loan transaction. Now you may want to question or ask, then what is the difference between a loan and a finance lease transaction? Well, the difference lies in the ownership. When we say the word lease, irrespective of the nature of the lease, whether it is an operating lease or finance lease, in legal parlance, in legal terminology and under the court of law, it is the lessor who is recognized as the owner of the lease. For the purpose of accounting, the treatment is different for a finance lease and for an operating lease. But as far as the legal ownership is concerned, it is well established with the lessor only in both the cases. So the rental in lease is almost parallel to what you would be seeing in a loan transaction. The advantage for the customer over here is he need not go to his banker and get a no objection certificate for taking an equipment on lease because the ownership is resting with the lessor. So the general charge which he creates over his past, present and future assets to the bankers, that completely gets, unaffected by this lease transaction. And from a lessor's point of view, the risk is largely in the credit appetite only, in the credit aspect only. The lessor is as such not taking a risk on the residual value of the equipment in a finance lease transaction. Now let me come back to operating lease. So in accounting terminology, it is very simply defined as something which is not an operating lease is a finance lease, or something which is not a finance lease is called an operating lease. Now what is the difference between the two? The difference between the two is under an operating lease, it is same. The lessor only is the owner of the equipment. So again, if the lessee has to take an equipment on lease basis, it need not go to its banker to get the NOC, and the charge is by obvious reasons not created directly in favor of the banker. But the difference lies over here is, here the lessor takes a residual risk in the equipment. Say if you want to buy a machine for your business, any machinery that will be used in the production of the equipment, you may take it for a period of up to say 5 years or 7 years. Here the lessor steps in and tells you, look, I will buy the equipment on your behalf. I will give in the right to use for the equipment to you. At the same time, I will assume that after a good 5 to 7 years, which is an agreed period of lease, after a good 5 to 7 years period of use of the equipment, I attribute some residual value to the equipment. Now here it is a risk which is taken by the lessor. So that is why if you see in the consequences in part 2, we are writing the risk is both on the credit as well as of the asset. The risk on the asset is there in either which case, whether it is a finance lease or operating lease. But here, to be precise, the risk is on the asset is attributed to the residual part of it. When I take a judgment call that what could be a residual value of XYZ equipment after the fixed predetermined period of use, here is where the differential part comes in. That is why we say residual is the only difference between the operating lease and finance lease. Now for a company, for a borrower, what is the advantage? This is called as a non-full payout lease because the lessee is not necessarily paying the principal plus the entire interest portion, and because the lessor assumes a residual risk in the asset, the rental is generally much lower. So as you see in this particular example, the the rental portion vis-a-vis a 33.2 rupees, which would be paid per annum for a per month for a 1,000 rupees asset. Here the rental amount goes down to 27.4 rupees per 1,000 per month for a same period of 36 months. Why? Because there is a residual value estimate which the lessor is taking. Now this cannot be agreed with the lessee at the initial stage itself because this is the risk specifically taken by the lessor. If for any reason the lessor and lessee collude together and decide, oh, there is an understanding at the end of the lease, you will transfer the equipment back to me at a say 20% residual value, then under no circumstances can this qualify for being an operating lease. Because when there is an implied interest to transfer the equipment or sell the equipment or let it be retained with the lessee for a particular rental without or with taking the price for it, then it is called as finance lease. Now, some smart companies may want to take an advantage of operating lease and say, okay, the rental is higher, but at the end of the period, we did not attribute some value to it, so we decided to keep back the equipment with the lessee only, but has conveniently and smartly recovered its entire principal plus interest over the 3-year period. Then too, your auditors will not allow you to qualify this as an operating lease. Under operating lease, it is mandatory for the lessee to express its intent of what it wants to do with the equipment only at the end of the lease period. Whether it seeks to buy back at the fair market value then, or it wants to seek an extension, or it simply wants to return the equipment to the lessor, that should be a very open-ended flexible option with the lessee at the end of the tenure. In whichever way, if there is an implied interest or an established interest, directly or indirectly, where there was a very clear intent or understanding between the lessor and the lessee that the equipment be retained with the lessee at the end of the predetermined period, then your auditors will qualify as a finance lease and not as a operating lease. So we'll come to it on the impact of the finance and operating lease when we discuss about the accounting treatment. Okay. So slide number 5 very simply explains you what are the distinctive features between an operating lease and a finance lease. Operating lease is an off-balance sheet. Why do we say it's an off-balance sheet treatment? Because as we explained earlier, the lessor is taking the risk on the credit as well as the residual part. So under no circumstances can the asset be on the balance sheet of the lessee. Vis-a-vis in a finance lease, since there is an implied interest and there is a clear-cut agreed interest to transfer the equipment or the asset back to the lessee at the end of the fixed period. So the lessee has to record that asset in its books in the initial stage itself. That is why we say it is on balance sheet. So once you have an asset on your balance sheet, necessarily you need to have a corresponding liability in your balance sheet. So whatever is the lease rental due payment for the balance period of the lease to be paid by the lessee to the lessor gets reflected in the books of the lessee under the asset as well as the liability side. So one has a complete off balance sheet picture, one has a complete on balance sheet picture. Now when we say off balance sheet, please understand it's only off balance sheet, it's not off P&L. Okay. Now what is the difference in terms of ownership? Accounting and legal ownership vests with the lessor. Under finance lease, legal ownership vests with lessor and accounting ownership vests with the lessee. When we say accounting ownership with the lessee means what? Under finance lease, the lessee has to record the asset in its book under its fixed assets and has to very clearly state that these assets are taken on lease. It's always a good practice for the lessee to write. Nevertheless, it is a part of, it has to any which ways included in part of its fixed assets as per the asset category that it takes on lease. Now what happens to the rental amount that the lessee pays to the lessor? What is the difference between an operating lease treatment and a finance lease treatment? Under operating lease, the rentals are considered as an operating expense. As the name goes, it is an operating expense. So the entire rental that the lessee pays to the lessor for the period of use, agreed period of use, which could be anything from a year, say 1 year to 10 or 15 years. So the entire rental component is charged as a revenue expense. Now, how would you compare this in your normal, business expenses? Say a company is taking a car on lease from a company where it's saying that, okay, I will use your car for say so much kilometer per month, or I've taken it on hire for so and so period. I pay you this rent. Then the entire rent is debited to the P&L as a normal business expense. Same way over here, anything with the word operating means it is a complete operating expense, so the rentals are charged as revenue expense. But a finance lease, as we discussed earlier, is more akin to a loan transaction. Here, necessarily, at the implicit rate of return in the transaction, that is the agreed rate between the lessor and the lessee, at that rate, the rentals are split between principal and interest amount. And what would happen? The rentals will be treated, which will be covered in the next slide. The rentals will be treated as a P&L expense, and the interest and principal and all will have an impact on the balance sheet side in terms of the asset and the liability respectively. And the interest and depreciation will come in the P&L picture. So there's a difference when if you pay this, even if the rental amount is same, under an operating lease, the entire rental will be charged as revenue expense, and under finance lease, it will necessarily have to be split into principal and interest. Now, what are the tax benefits over here? The lessee may say that in operating lease, I am losing out on the depreciation. Because the asset ownership is with the lessor, I do not get to depreciate the asset, so the depreciation loss is my loss. No, it is not so. On the contrary, you are in a better position because you will be taking the entire tax shield on the entire rental amount. Since it is a revenue expense, the entire rental amount is eligible for tax deductible expense. Vis-a-vis, when you compare in finance lease or under a loan transaction, interest portion only is allowed as a tax deductible expense. Now, by contrast, for letting go of that, when in operating lease you get say 100 rupee as a rental amount, the entire 100 as deduction. Here, your rental is split into principal plus interest. Say it is 90 and 10, so only 10 rupees is allowed as an operating expense and interest expense in P&L, and the 90 rupees is disallowed. Vis-a-vis, against that you will be getting a depreciation charge, which you can be easily able to debit your account. So you'll ask me, what is the difference? In either which case, I am getting the entire principal as a write-off, and here I get interest and depreciation as a write-off. So what is the benefit for me? The catch is here. You need to understand that under depreciation, whenever you do the income tax depreciation rate, the depreciation is allowed on written down value basis. So on written down value basis, considering the general plant and machinery equipment depreciation rate of 15%, you depreciate your asset over a period of not less than 15 to 17 years. Whereas if the same equipment you take on lease, the entire principal plus interest can be taken as a tax deductible expense over a period of maybe 3 years to up to 5 years, which is a general average lease period that people do in the market. Now see the comparison, the benefit, something that you would have accrued an income tax benefit over a period of 15 years, it gets accelerated and you are actually accruing that benefit in the period of just 3 to 5 years. That is why the rentals in operating lease go down lower. So what is the other basic difference in that? The essence of operating lease is the usage of asset. Since you are using the asset, you are not eligible for depreciation, but you are just simply mere kind of a bailee of the equipment. So obviously you are not eligible for depreciation. But in the finance lease, there is an intent, agreed intent or an implied intent to actually own the equipment. Then the essence is the ownership of the asset. So its use versus ownership is what distinguishes between the operating lease and finance lease. If there is any confusion on the tax part of it, we will definitely address it during the question and answer session, or probably you could send a separate email as well. Going back to slide number 6 now. Going forward, sorry. We'll move to slide number 6. Here we're discussing about, you may question, why should I go for lease? I can get, banks to give me funding at a very low rate. I can put in my own money. So why is it that companies really need to go for lease? So let's see the process on this and let us see, have an understanding. First one being, let me take the extreme right. Leasing provides faster tax reductions. It's an extension of the point as I just explained. If you were to own an equipment and depreciate it under the normal depreciation rate, which is at about 15% written down value, you will be depreciating the asset and getting depreciation as a tax allowable expense over a period of minimum 15 years under the gross block of asset concept that prevails in India. So by the time you actually write off the complete asset, it could be anything between 15 to 16 years. Vis-a-vis, when you take the same equipment on lease, you can do a lease for a period of 3 to 4 to 5 years or even shorter of 2 years, wherein the entire principal plus the lessee's or the lessor's earnings, there has to be a nominal interest also on that. Though the lessor earns also through the residual value, but of course on the principal component also there will be some, insignificant interest portion. The entire principal plus interest is allowed as a deductible expense. So that's why lease provides faster tax deductions. And just below that is the point of asset-light businesses have the greatest potential for scalability. Why would we say so? Since you are asset light, you're also liability light. As I said, for every asset there has to be a corresponding liability. It's not about just being asset light, it's also being low on liability. It's also being liability light. The moment you're low on liability, the moment you're low on your leverage, it only offers you to conserve your capital. It only offers you to, for your future business needs or large project needs, you can actually have the capacity or the leeway or the bandwidth to actually increase your borrowings. The moment you can increase your borrowings, obviously there is great potential for you to expand your business, to invest in business and scale up your businesses. If you reach a threshold level of asset investment, or if you reach a threshold level of leveraging your balance sheet, then beyond that point, you will not be able to kind of scale up your business, because you will always be caught in a debt trap. You will always be caught in the debt equity ratio jargon, and wherein banks may want to curtail the further investment or providing further financing to your company. That is where the asset light businesses, we say, always have great potential for scalability. Left to that is the point where we're talking of capital intensive approach to business expansion. It's a big no. Most of the companies today are talking about, while you need assets, you cannot do without assets. Without asset, how will you produce another asset? But people are moving away from, when even the capital intensive industries where the asset is the core of their business, they do not want to have the asset on their balance sheet. So that's why we say capital intensive approach to business expansion is a big no. The world over, people are now shifting to, and in India we are seeing this big change happening. People feel that the cost of usage of an asset, it should ideally be reflected over the actual economic life or the actual useful life of the asset. So people do not want to make it very, very disproportionate, one in terms of investment of assets, the second in terms of use of assets. So people are keen on attributing the cost of usage. About that, the big one, cloud most important point when we see that why it is important for any organization, be it big or small, to conserve capital. To conserve capital for some very large future investments, to conserve capital for your working capital, for your day-to-day cycle. There is no need and no point to blocking your investment or your funds in assets, where we are not even very, very sure that how long you will use it. And even if you want to use it for a longer period, there is always an option available for you to take the same asset on lease and pay lease rental proportionate to the use of the asset over a specific period of time. So that is why we say cash is king. SMEs, specifically SMEs, no matter where in the world they are located, must utilize their cash in the areas of their businesses that achieve the highest returns. It is best that to conserve your cash, to conserve your business capital, where you put in money over there where you can get the highest returns. Why do you need to kind of invest your money or block all your assets in, in something that which may not be completely core to your business also? So that is why we say that cash is king. SMEs, no matter where in the world they are located, must utilize their cash in areas of their businesses that achieve them highest returns. Leasing is a major tool available to SMEs to help accomplish this objective. Now for SME companies, largely we have seen working capital is a very, very high cost of borrowing. It's a major, major hit which they gives on their balance sheet. So that is where this leasing tool will help, because the same money which is used to block in the equipment can now actually be used to bring down the working capital or the short-term cost of funds, which will eventually only bring savings to the business. And also your debt equity ratio, your leveraging will not be impacted. Again, banks, while giving money, they take charge on all assets, past, present, future, long-term, fixed, working capital, everything. Whereas in leasing, when you take the equipment on lease, your collateral is restricted to that particular equipment, and based on your credit profile, some other collaterals that may be taken. But under no ways, no circumstances, it's usually that the company will take over the working capital also as a security. So that is why we say that cash is the king. Retain your cash with you rather than going in for, investing in the assets or the long-term assets, as I may say. We move on to slide number 7, and we talk about unique advantages of operating leases to lessee. So as since the forum over here is SMEs, we're talking from their point of view largely. Otherwise, generally, leasing has also been very, very popular with multinational companies and debt-free companies. Now, you may even wonder that why would a debt-free company want to take equipment on lease at all? Why can't they simply just put in their money? As we complete this session, by end of the day, you will definitely know that what are the major advantages and why do even cash-rich companies actually go for leasing route. So the unique advantages of operating leases to the lessee are up to 100% funding can be provided. Normally, we have seen, especially in banking parlance, in the banks, they generally insist on minimum, especially for SMEs, a minimum 15%, and it goes up to 25% or 30% margin. Whereas with a leasing company, under the lease route, people go, lessors like Tata Capital had even given up to 100% funding of the equipment cost to the lessee. That is a major advantage. The other advantage, as we have seen earlier, is the lower rental vis-a-vis a term loan option, because the lessor takes an assumption, takes a risk, and has an appetite to absorb that there could be some residual which he will realize at the end of the term of the lease, vis-a-vis which he passes on the lower rental benefit to the lessee. And here, when we talk of second advantage, we are even talking about financing the entire solution. That is, entire amount of the equipment and the ancillary cost, at times including the initial preloaded AMC, that is the warranty cost, up to 100%, whatever 10 or 15% of the equipment which is there. The entire thing can be loaded onto the invoice, and the lessor can take a call of financing the entire solution, including the soft costs involved in that. Fourth important point is that the period rental, the fixed period rental is available, and the rentals are also usually fixed. The rentals are not floating. The rental is purely fixed. So you get obviously an interest rate kind of arbitrage. We don't know over a period of next 3, 4, 5 or 7 years, the interest rates could go up, could go down, but you have a natural hedge because you are locked in at today's cost, and you don't have to really worry if the interest rates go up, then you will be passed on another further increase to you. The tax advantage, which we have already covered, there is a faster tax advantage. To reiterate that point, as I explained earlier, if you take an equipment on your own or if you take an equipment on loan, in both cases, you will be owning the equipment, you will be taking that equipment in your fixed assets, and you will be depreciating under the normal rate, which could be anything between 15 to 17, 16 years. Whereas the lease rental period being shorter, the automatic option for you is that the automatic, benefit to you is that you will be getting a faster tax deduction. We come back to the financial reporting, which we just saw a little earlier. There are stronger ratios. What happens is, since you don't load your balance sheet, you are asset light. Since your assets are low, the profit of the business vis-a-vis an asset, say, which was earlier at 100, but since you decided to do all your expansion through the lease route, or you have done a sale and lease back, if you would have added your assets, then the same thing now coming down to 70. Now imagine your same profit divided by 70 or same profit divided by 100. You will realize that your ROA only improves. And today, all the CFOs of big companies, all the managing directors are conscious about, all the treasury people are conscious about having the best-in-class ROA, best-in-class ROE, keeping your balance sheet as low leverage as possible. So these are the advantages which operating lease brings to the lessee, which is not available through any other form of, kind of acquisition of equipment apart from the leasing route. So the current ratio gets improved, the ROA gets improved, the debt equity gets improved. These are the major advantages through the lease route. There is improved working capital. Since you have chosen to not park your money in this particular business to acquire assets, you have more cash at disposal in your hands, by which means you can actually bring down your working capital liability, which cost is very high and which cost usually hits the companies. So your actually working capital cost goes down, overall your cash flows overall get improved, and your interest burden gets reduced because the short-term cost is not there, which was there hitherto until you acquire the equipment on lease. So obviously there's an improved working capital position for the lessee. There are other important features to it. One is now on the technology part. Yes, the major advantage why people generally go for leasing is also you are transferring the risk of the asset to the lessor. Once you actually invest in the equipment on your own, or you take the investment equipment on loan basis, you're married to the equipment, you're wedded to the equipment for lifetime. If it is of no use to you, you are still locked in with it and you have to scout for a reseller, and the entire risk is actually with you. Here, when you take the equipment on lease, you're actually transferring your asset risk of ownership of asset. It's not just about asset. Besides the correct word as we say is the risk of owning an asset is directly transferred on to the lessor. As I said, because at the end of the lease, you have the option, flexible option at the end, which we'll cover in the very next point. The convenience is CapEx versus OpEx. When we say CapEx, we talk of capital expenditure versus operating expenditure. We have already covered this earlier in the previous slides. Operating expenses are far more advantageous from the CapEx, capital expenditure methodology point of view, because the operating expense actually gets attributed to the actual use of the equipment. Thereby, you are actually giving the correct picture, not only to the world, but to your own self. See, when you take an equipment on your own or through a loan basis, then you depreciate the asset over a period of 15 years. So in reality, there is an actual asset liability kind of a mismatch. But say if you're taking an equipment and you will see that the break-even point of investment in this equipment is say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or you know that the premium, the primary use of the equipment is good for 4-5 years, after which you actually just simply want to reap the benefit. Then leasing makes sense because you want to attribute the cost of the project to its original primary use only. Of course, you have all the choice. You can go on using the equipment for 30, 40 years. It depends. Some people use their cars for 15, 20 years. Some people want to change their car for every 4, 5 years. But what is necessary and what is most important is that your true profitability picture of your product gets reflected when you have acquired the equipment through an OpEx model. That is why we say that there is a convenience also and there is an advantage also, benefit for the lessee to have an operating expenditure rather than a capital expenditure. You're completely free from disposal issues. One, if you decide at the end of the lease, which is the predetermined exit period, which could be anything, as I said, from 12 months to 24 months to maybe kind of 10 years also, 120 months. So you have the option at the end to simply put the disposal risk on us. All you need to do is send a notice to the lessor or intimate the lessor about 180 days or sometimes just 90 days in advance about your intent of using the asset. Would you want a further use? So I'll club the 2 points, flexibility at end of term, that is disposal issues, and flexibility at end of term. So you have the advantage or you have the flexibility to decide what you want to do with the equipment. You want to retain it with you for the end of the term. You want to renew the lease, or you simply just want to kind of go for, buyout at the fair market value. In either which case, or if you simply want to return. So the entire disposal management, the disposal issues are passed on, the burden is passed on to the lessor. This is especially very important today because today everyone is talking about environment protection, government regulations that coming in and all that. So disposal issues are not your hassle anymore once you have taken the equipment on operating lease basis, because the entire asset management function is managed by the lessor. And again, as I said, there is flexibility at end of term. It is not only at end of term, I must add over there, which the slide does not include, there is flexibility at mid-term also. At the end of the term, the flexibility that you have is you can either simply choose to return the equipment to the lessor with the timely notice as was agreed between the lessor and lessee, or you can request to the lessor to give it to the equipment to you for further extended period of use, proposed period of use, which could be anything from 3 months to 3 years, whatever at that point that equipment means to you. You can easily simply request the lessor, allow me an extended use, and negotiate the commercial terms, which is usually much lower than what the original rent you have paid for the equipment. The third option with the lessee is to buy the equipment from the lessor at the fair market value available at that point of time. That fair market value will be determined in mutual consent between the lessor and the lessee, or sometimes even the lessor, for the comfort of lessee, kind of call for bids from the market. Whatever rates are available can kind of be discussed with the lessee and say that this is the estimated fair market value into this time. The lessee again cannot be forced. The lessee will have the choice, will have the option. It actually wants to buy, it can buy at fair market value. It simply wants to shun off the equipment and give it to the lessor. It's your headache, your equipment, you do what you need to do. After my quota of that fixed period is over, then the lessee has to take that risk. There's another option which is available, the fourth option, where we say you have initially taken an equipment on lease for a period of 60 months. As you come closer to fourth year, you realize that part of the equipment has kind of got damaged, depleted or anything. And some of the equipment is so good that you can actually comfortably and conveniently use it for another 1 or 2 years. So that at the midterm, you can actually approach the lessor and request that, look, I may want to return part of this equipment. I may want to retain the bank balance portion. But for the returned equipment, I would like to go in for a technology refresh or for a trade-in option. So the lessor and lessee mutually kind of contact the supplier, the erstwhile supplier who was initially supplied, or even if new vendors have come and say and work out an exchange of equipment option with the lessee. That is what is a major advantage, and rewrite the entire lease for a further extended period, which also gives cash flow flexibility to the lessee. Fourth advantage which we are talking of is facilitates planned replacement. Since you have taken the equipment on lease, as I said, you are not locked in with the equipment, you are not wedded to the equipment. A planned replacement can be planned, which is somewhere in the mid of the term or end of the term, wherein you may decide that I would want to do what you would want to do with the equipment. Now, on the financial part. No financial covenants. Why? Because we say that this asset, anything which is taken on operating lease, does not appear on your balance sheet. It does not appear on your balance sheet, your asset light, it does not appear on your liability, your leveraging ratio is not getting affected. Usually, there is no additional collateral required. It is the asset which is the underlying security. At most, a personal guarantee from the lessee is taken from the promoters for the money extended to the company. Yes, unless the credentials are very weak or it's a market practice or it's going on, the lessee may be asked to give some kind of additional collateral to protect the rental obligations, that what is due for the lessor to receive from the lessee. And we have already covered this point about less expense, as we've shown in the slide number, I think 3 or 4, the advantage that how the same asset, when it's taken for the same period of time, 36 months, by way of loan, and the same asset for the same period of time by way of lease and the 36 months, how the rental gets down from 33 rupees to 27 rupees. So obviously from lessee's perspective, the cost really comes down without also kind of compromising on the use of asset, and at the same time giving away the risk of ownership of the asset. So this is a very interesting chart, simple chart, chart number 9, which explains what are the unique advantages of operating lease to lessee. A comparison is given between a cash, a loan, a finance lease and an operating lease. The advantages, as we discussed, it's an off-balance sheet thing. The lease is an off-balance sheet option. Operating lease, whereas in finance lease, it appears in your balance sheet. In loan also it appears. And if you put your own money, you invest by way of cash, then also it appears in your balance sheet. Do you get the advantage of hedge against technology under cash arrangement when you put your own investment? You may call it cash, you may call it equity. Have you put in your own money? Is it really advantage? You get the hedge against technology? No. If it's a loan, you get the hedge against technology? No. Even if your asset goes completely defunct, what happens? The bank will tell you it is none of my business. You pay me my rental. If the asset is no more for use, that is your lookout. You have to pay my rental to me. Likewise, even in a finance lease, as I said, there is an implied or agreed interest of transfer of equipment. So the virtual ownership or the realistic ownership is with the lessee only, with the customer. So the hedge against technology is not available again over there as well, because it is locked with the equipment. Whereas if it's an operating lease, you have an hedge against technology. After the basic preliminary period of use, the lessee can simply actually, with the whatever caveats are built in that, with the the prime notice of prior notice to the lessor about its intent for the equipment, it can actually return the equipment. And so that is a natural hedge against technology obsolescence. There is a flexibility of end of term. We have discussed about that. You can either seek for renewal, you can either seek for a shorter extension or a longer extension. You can actually seek the option of buyout of the equipment, or you may simply choose the option to return the equipment to the lessor. Faster appropriation, is it available in cash, loan or finance lease? No. You are taking that equipment as per the statutory requirement of 15% or whatever is the eligible rate for that equipment. Over that period, on a written down value basis, only you can appropriate the costs. Whereas in an operating lease, you decide if you expect that your business is going to flourish, you're going to have high tax in the next 2 or 3 years, then you can even structure your lease payments to absorb that higher income so that your tax liability comes down. So there is a faster appropriation option available, which is not available in any of the other 3 options. Point number 5, there are increased tax benefits because as you write off the equipment over a shorter period of time, the same being a tax deductible expense, you get that benefit in operating lease, which is not available in cash, loan or a finance lease option. And of course, most importantly, cash flow benefits. We always see, I always personally believe, having spent about so many years in this industry, that leasing frankly is a cash flow tool rather than just being a tax or a depreciation. Because whatever is your project realization likely to be, or the benefits that you're likely to utilize from the equipment for its use, you can actually request the lessor to structure your lease rental payments accordingly. It could be for a period of, it could even be an equated structure. Say you install a new equipment and you realize that in the very first year, you may not reap in the benefit of production or expansion of a business line or a new product line. You can actually request the lessor to keep the rental bare minimal, just lower, almost like kind of as if it's like a moratorium or very minimal principal amount to recover. And then as you feel that, okay, your equipment is now in place and year on year you will reap more benefit, you can even request the lessor to give you a lease rental payment structure which is aligned with what you expect to realize by installing that equipment. we call it, sometimes we call it like a step-up structure. If you feel that the benefits from the equipment will only come over a period of time and increase every year, then you can even request the lessor to align it with that and give you a step-up structure so that you don't get hit by the profitability or higher returns. Likewise, there are many companies who are very cash rich, who are expecting huge taxes, huge taxable profits and all that. They generally go for a shorter tenure lease and they go for what we call it as a step down structure. Step down structure meaning in the initial 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, they pay the rentals at a higher rate, much higher rate. Say for a 3-year or a 5-year lease, a typical equated structure would mean that, recovering that, 100 rupees like 20, 20, 20, 20, 25 years. But here, since you're expecting higher taxes, you're expecting higher cash flows, you're probably in full tax rate, you can actually request the lessor to structure your payments in such manner that you pay almost 40% of your rentals in the very first year, 20% in 2020, 30% in the next year, and the remaining 3 years a very small rental of 5%, 10%. So you have taken the advantage of the rental portion, higher rentals, in the very first 2 years only. So there's a tax benefit and there is a cash flow benefit because you have surplus cash in hand. It's just that you don't want to load your balance sheet. You want to continue or retain your status of being, asset light. So you go for this leasing option, which is giving you all that flexible options. We come to slide number 10, where we talk of lease accounting, which is very simply explained in the chart. While I've spoken verbally, if you see the chart, it's very, very clear. Now let's look at the first left column. If it is a finance lease transaction, who has the ownership of the equipment? It is the lessor. Let's understand and be reminded again that in both cases, whether it is finance lease or operating lease, it is a lessor which is the owner of the equipment, which is the legal owner of the equipment to be precise. Now lessor, say a company like Tata Capital writes a business with XYZ company and it's established as a finance lease transaction. What happens in the books of the lessor or balance sheet? In the asset side, there will be receivables because whatever is the lease rental receivables to be received from the lessee only will get recorded. On the liability side, obviously nothing. What goes in the profit and loss account of Tata Capital in that case? Only the interest portion. Say you have taken an equipment worth rupees 1 lakh from Tata Capital on lease and you are paying a rental of say about 1,20,000 over a period of 5 years. So that 1,20,000 will be split into interest and principal year on year and only the interest income will go into the balance sheet of the lessor. What happens if it's an operating lease? Same thing, same situation, same terms. Here the lessor will not book as receivable but will actually book in the fixed asset under the plant and machinery category or whatever asset. If it's an IT equipment on that, if it's a car then under vehicle leasing or auto lease. But if, for the time being we are assuming that this is all about equipment. So the lessor will take the asset in the fixed assets of its balance sheet and on the liability side of course nothing. And the entire rental, as we discussed in the previous example of 1,20,000 over a period of 5 years, whatever is 1,20,000 divided by 5 per year, per month, whatever, the entire rental income will appear in the P&L account. And the lessor will be entitled to depreciation as well because it is offering its entire principal for taxation. Obviously, the lessor has to be eligible for depreciation. Now, lessor like you also will get depreciation over a period of 15 years only. So I'll expect this question to come from business that what is not good for the lessee, how it can be good for the lessor. If you have this question, you can park it. Maybe at the end of the session in QA we can cover if someone wants to know what interest it is for lessor to be in this business then. Because the same disadvantage which is available to the lessee of depreciating the asset over a period of 15 years is now getting passed on to the lessor. So why would a lessor want to subject its income to taxation in 5 years and take the benefit of depreciation over a period of 15 years? So if you all have this question, park this question, we could probably address it separately. Now let's come to the lessee. What happens when if it's a finance lease? Same thing. Just as it would have been in loan or own investment, In the asset side, the lessee will record the equipment in its fixed asset under the appropriate category of plant and machinery or IT equipment or probably a car lease or office equipment, whatever categories. What will go in the liability side? Whatever are the future lease rentals the lessee owns or is obliged to pay to the lessor, that gets reflected in the debt side of the lessee's balance sheet. Since it is the accounting owner of the equipment, what goes into its profit and loss account? Since the asset is recorded in its books, the depreciation. The depreciation will go into the books of the lessee just as it would have taken had it owned or loaned the asset. And what else will go into the P&L of the lessee? The interest expense. Whatever is the interest expense, say the equipment cost was 1 lakh and say the total rental that the lessee pays is 1,20,000. So the 20,000 divided into 5 years, not equally obviously on return on value basis, that goes as a P&L expense for the lessee under a normal finance lease transaction, just as it would be in a loan transaction. Now, if the same lessee has taken this equipment on operating lease basis, what have we written here? The off-balance sheet feature will now be understood. What goes in the asset? Nothing. What goes in the liability? Nothing. That is why we say it's off-balance sheet. It's not off P&L. It's completely off-balance sheet, and the entire rental that it pays to the lessor that gets, expensed out under the P&L account. If there are any doubts related to this accounting treatment, that may be put up in the question answer session, Q&A session. Now, people generally want to know what is the broad flow of, the entire process or event in equipment leasing. If the asset is owned by the lessor, then who takes the, responsibility of choosing the equipment? Who is responsible for purchase order release and all? So this chart explains completely the whole picture. So there are essentially 3 parties. Up till now, whatever we discussed was between the lessor and the lessee. We discussed about the accounting treatment, tax treatment. We discussed about the advantages, the asset risk ownership. We discussed about the technology factor. We discussed about the flexible options. Now we are coming to the actual flow from the transaction. So then the third party comes in, because the equipment which we have been talking on so far, there has to be a supplier for the equipment. So we have third party we have added is the supplier. So there are 3 people to the contract. There is Tata Capital, which is a lessor. There is a customer, which is the lessee. And there is a third party, which is the supplier. So what transpires, if you see number 1, what transpires between the customer and the supplier? The customer chooses the equipment and informs the supplier, and there is a proper deal arrangement. The arrow is there on both sides between the customer and the supplier. This arrangement takes place wherein the customer is identified as chosen the equipment. Simultaneously, what does the lessee do? He goes to a company like Tata Capital and lessor and tells them that I need this equipment on lease. I have identified the vendor, I have identified the equipment, but I don't want to invest in this equipment. You invest on my behalf and give it on lease to me. Give it on lease means give me on right to use that equipment, and you buy on my behalf. So the lessee that is a customer and the lessor, that is Tata Capital, enter into a lease agreement, wherein this entire responsibility of who does what in this entire 3 or 5 or 7 or 10-year period of lease, all the caveats are kind of covenants are established over there. The responsibility of the lessor, the warranty of the equipment, everything is kind of mentioned over there. So a lease agreement is signed between the lessor and the lessee. As soon as the lease agreement is signed and all arrangements and the equipment is approved by the lessor, chosen by the lessee, but approved by the lessor, whether the equipment is eligible for a lease transaction or not. So Tata Capital, or say a lessor, places the purchase order on behalf of the lessee to the supplier. It places the order for the equipment. Once that order is placed, it is responsibility of the supplier, as we see in point number 4, to deliver the equipment directly to the lessee. All these conditions are mentioned in the purchase order. Just because the equipment is purchased by The lessor does not mean the equipment will be delivered at the lessor's premises and the lessor is responsible for delivery installation. No. That is why I said in the beginning of the class only, there is a difference between a rental arrangement and there is a difference between a lease arrangement. Here, just as it would have been when it would have taken for the lessee, when it would have taken the equipment on loan or loan basis, the same relationship continues. It's just that the billing is in the name of the lessor. So the supplier goes and does the entire delivery and installation of the equipment at the prescribed place by the lessee for transfer of the equipment. Wherever the lessee says, there the machinery is delivered and installed. Thereafter, as a next step, necessarily the lessee accepts the equipment. As soon as the lessee accepts the equipment, then once the equipment is done, then the lessor makes the payment to the supplier for the equipment. Now there may be cases where there is 100% advance payment to be made. That is also allowed. Many suppliers do not deliver the equipment till the company, that is the borrower company or its financer, has made the 100% payment to it. So whenever that kind of situation is also there, at the request of the customer, the lessee, the lessor can make the payment 100% advance before delivery and installation also to the supplier. In this case, we have explained that after the acceptance of the equipment, presuming that the supplier has given a credit period or choice of acceptance of equipment to the lessee, so we are saying that the payment is made subsequently, but the payments can always be made in advance as well. The lessor will make the payment to the supplier the day it is done and the day asset is equipment. Same day, there is a summary schedule, a lease summary schedule. Initial phase case में you will sign the master lease agreement, a lease summary schedule and signed between the lessor and the lessee for repayment of rentals for that particular equipment. So the process is very, very simple. Everything is done by the lessor on behalf of the lessee, but at the request and behest of the lessee. Now, when we come to lease rental, there is often a question about the taxation aspect. That is now the indirect taxes which we are talking of. That is the VAT or the GST regime. What will happen? What is the rent? Is there any tax for the rental payable on the rental amount? So here it is explained under operating lease. So let me first explain that in the leasing industry or the language or in the regulatory space, leasing is construed as a deemed sale. It is construed, it's like a deemed sale. So that is why whatever is the rental under the VAT regime, current regime, or even going forward in the GST regime, whatever is the equipment cost that you initially paid, on that, whatever is the tax, that is the VAT that you have paid, the same VAT rate will now be applicable on the lease rental portion. Say if you purchase an equipment for 1 lakh rupees and paid a 12% VAT on it. So what happens now, whatever is the predetermined rental, as we discussed, say about 27 rupees say per thousand per month, on that rental amount VAT will be charged. Now your question will be that, oh, that means am I paying double tax, first initially on the purchase of the equipment and then again on the rental portion? No, the answer is no. You need to understand that under the VAT regime, what is happening, and same thing will follow in GST regime. While the equipment cost, say 1 lakh plus 12% is 1,20,000, the major advantage in leases, the lessor passes the input tax credit. The input tax credit to the lessee. Not only so much so, it passes the input tax credit to the lessee on day one. So while the lessor pays 1,12,000 to the supplier for purchase of equipment, but it charges rental only on 1 lakh rupees to the lessee. And on that rental amount, it collects VAT. So in effect, the lessee is actually getting an extended period to pay the VAT. Had it taken on loan or had it taken on its own investment, it would have paid the entire 1,12,000. Today, not only it gets a payment stream of 3 months, even the VAT payment gets deferred because the VAT is now payable on the rental over a period of 3 or 4 or 5 years of lease as is agreed between them. So VAT on lease rentals as per state is there, and VAT rate as per state VAT rate where the asset is deployed, and the input tax credit is passed on to the lessee. In finance lease, what is it? While the same VAT stream regime continues of ownership and on the lease rentals, it's paid off over a period of time, and you will charge the rental on the base rate and not the full tax rate. There is a slightly nominal cost which comes in over here. This was introduced few years ago, wherein there is a service tax which is added on the 10% of the interest component. As we discussed earlier, finance lease is split between principal and interest. So whatever is the interest component, say you have taken an asset on lease under finance lease for 1 lakh rupees, and over a period of 5 years of time you are paying 1,20,000. So 20,000 precisely is the interest that you are paying for a period of 5 years. On that 20,000, on the 10% of that 20,000. So 10% of 20,000 is 2,000 rupees. On that 2,000 rupees, whatever is a VAT rate of say 12%, you will be paying that tax. So in effect, the interest burden of that or the cost impact of that is very, very insignificant. But there is an administration, work involved around that. Whatever is the tax rate per month, or on that 20% you take it, and on that again you apply the VAT rate. But that's more headache of lessor than lessee. So that is payable as service tax by the leasing company to the government. So slight disadvantage, if you ask me, of finance is there, but frankly, the impact in terms of the interest rate is very nominal, from 0.05% to probably 0.1% or something. Now what happens in the GST regime? A uniform, fully offsettable destination-based tax system. Destination-based tax system means where is the location of the asset, on that will decide the GST rate. Then IGST, CGST and CGST, just as is eligible in VAT rate, will be, now both are fully offsettable. Both completely will be offsettable, so complete VAT set-off will be actually passed on to the lessee. So does it bring any change for the leasing companies or for the lessee? Does the GST regime bring any change? Yes, it brings a lot of positive impact, lot of positive change. It opens up new sectors for the leasing companies. How? Currently, VAT companies, whatever VAT was eligible on sale of goods, and there was service tax company. There was like the, say, IT companies or hospitality industry or probably hospitals. Now these people, these companies did not have any VATable output because they didn't really have any sales of goods. They were just into service. So they were not able to absorb the VAT cost on the lease rentals that was payable because they didn't have an output for VAT, because output was only for service. But now since the both get clubbed, so even the service sector will now be able to take the equipment on lease in a very, very easy and smooth manner without being burdened with additional cost on it. So that clarifies on the taxes on lease, the current structure and the GST regime. Now there is one more option available. We so far discussed, all our discussion was based on, what is the equipment purchase. That is, we were talking of new equipment to be purchased. We were talking of new investments to be made by the lessee for expanding its business or for kind of rehauling its existing equipment or, diversifying or expanding. There's another, offshoot of this product leasing, which is called a sale and leaseback product. So this largely appears also to large companies, but even smaller companies can take that advantage, wherein the assets are already owned by a company, but it wants to take advantage of being asset light. It wants to take advantage of de-risking on the ownership. It wants to take advantage of, showing off the liability from its books. So suppose a small company, a medium-sized company has certain assets which it invested in about, say, 1 or 2 years ago. Maybe the things were good, business was good, and it decided to invest, or it decided to invest through a loan option. Now, this company can come to a leasing company and ask for sale and leaseback option. That is, the seller, the lessee, transfers the ownership of the asset to the buyer, to the lessor. Say XYZ company sells its equipment to, say, a lessor like Tata Capital. The lessor will buy that equipment from the lessee, usually at the book value or the written down value, and give it back on lease to the lessee company again. Now, why would the lessee company want to do that? One, because as I said, it wants to be asset light. Second, it does not want leveraging its balance sheet where this asset is, the liabilities stand, either it's bought through own or loan assets. If the advantage of cost is there through a lessor, wherein the lessor can give an extended period of use or can give a lower cost, you can do the sale and lease back through a leasing company and take back the equipment at less cost and for an extended period of use. Let me give an example. Like XYZ company has invested in asset about 2 or 3 years ago and has taken the asset on 5-year loan. So virtually it is at midterm. 2.5 years have passed, it's at midterm. So balance 2.5 years loan repayment is going on and the asset is standing on its book. Now it wants to expand. When it wants to expand, then again it will have to load its balance sheet, take new assets, take new liability. Banks may question that why should we give you, your previous loan is pending for 2.5 years further. Why should I give you further loan? Here what could the lease company do? Sell its assets so it becomes asset light to a leasing company. Negotiate the price in such way so there is no burden. So vis-a-vis the earlier loan period of 2.5 years, a leasing company can give it a solution for further 5 years with a reduced rental. And the money that comes from the leasing company can be used to repay off the bank loan. So the, off balance sheet also, it's completely off on the liability side also. The liability gets reduced. And at the same time, nothing is getting compromised in terms of right to use the asset for the lessee. But it has only corrected or improved its balance sheet positioning and picture. So a sale and leaseback transaction can be structured as both operating lease as well as finance lease. And the advantage here is the old loans can be repaid, and if there is any extra on that, there is a further immediate liquidity available for working capital also for the borrower customer, that is the lessee company. We come to the last leg of this presentation, and the last portion is, of course, these are the last 2 slides where we talk about the frequently asked questions. Most of the companies have, so we can take one question at a time. What all cost components of equipments can be included in lease value? Well, the entire cost, including the soft cost, of course, provided the soft costs are not 80% and the hardware is 20%, but up to 10 to 15% of soft costs also, say sometimes there is an service level arrangement, a warranty or an AMC charge or something. Depends. This is all subject to the credit approval consideration, the tax cost, whatever is there, the excise duty, all direct, indirect costs related to the actual cost of acquisition of asset, leading which has actually made it put to use. Sometimes the hardware without software has no meaning. So even the software maybe cost maybe 15%, but it's most crucial because otherwise the hardware would have probably no meaning. So the entire cost of components, cost components of equipments can be included in the lease value. Yes, it can be included. Who will purchase the equipment and manage the vendor? On behalf of the lessee, on behalf of the customer, the lessor will actually purchase the equipment as explained earlier in the process terms, and manage the vendor, that is manage the vendor in terms of coordination of payment, delivery of equipment, installation, and keeping a track whether the equipment has been installed or not. So in terms of the the administration part, the entire headache is passed on to the leasing company. At the same time, the customer, the borrower company does not have to worry whether I will interfere in terms of his pricing or negotiation of the equipment. No, we neither influence. The leasing company, the lessor company does not influence or interfere in terms of the purchase of the equipment. The lessee has full option, full choice to choose the vendor, negotiate the price, everything it can be taken care of. Who takes care of insurance and maintenance? Yes. The insurance is taken care by leasing company with, of course, the cost loaded onto the customer. It is included in part of the rentals, or sometimes even a separate insurance term can be agreed upon. It will facilitate the entire thing since the ownership of the asset is with the lessor. So obviously it's mandatory on part of the owner to insure the asset and track it also. But the maintenance, the cost will be borne by the lessee. And as I said, it can be both ways. It can be clubbed with the rentals, or it can be separately also. Simply, insurance cost can be separately paid by the lessee. And on the maintenance, it is complete responsibility of the customer, that is the user of the equipment, wherein we transfer the right to use the equipment the maintenance part is taken care by that lessee company. They will be responsible, they will negotiate with the vendor for the AMC, or they may choose to do AMC through a third party non-manufacturer, or choose to do completely in-house. Technical team may maintain it. Nevertheless, the lessee company has a flexibility, but of course under intimation and information to the lessee. It has to periodically kind of just inform the leasing company that your equipment is being used functional and we are not having any challenges. So if lessee does insurance and maintenance, will the lease be qualified as finance lease? This is a very common question that people generally ask, because they feel that all the risk, all the attributes of the ownership are being transferred to the lessee. Will that make it qualified as a finance lease? No, certainly not. It will not make it qualified as finance lease, because these are commercial terms separately to be agreed upon. You will appreciate that any leasing company, all leasing companies cannot be proficient in maintaining every equipment, from a chemical equipment to a printing equipment to a normal automobile equipment. No company in the world can boast of being so proficient that it can maintain any equipment. We are just merely providing a equipment with a right to use by absorbing the residual risk of the equipment. The commercial aspects, insurance can be facilitated, but under no circumstances, and I have not come across any company globally across the globe which actually offers the maintenance part as a service also, certainly not. So that is not them, and neither does this responsibility being of the lessee make it qualified as an finance lease. That's purely a commercial arrangement. Some questions that people have is how to exit from a lease before end of term. It's very simple. The lessee has to put in a request citing reasons and why it needs to do. Now I'll give you a typical example. In car leasing, what happens generally? We give cars on lease to companies, and many a times the employee wants to leave in between or gets transferred or elsewhere. Then what happens? How to exit from a lease before end of term? Or many a times that a company is into 4 or 5 lines of business, and one of the businesses they decide to shut it down or they want to sell it off to you. They simply have to request the leasing company that for the balance committed period of lease rental, I need to actually exit from the transaction. It can be given a termination option. The future rentals can be discounted at a very, very nominal rate, and the present value of those rentals be paid by the leasing company to the lessor, and the rent and the equipment may be returned to the lessor. Then it is the lessor's risk if the technology has gone completely obsolete, if it does not find a new buyer, whatever it does, then that is completely the risk of the lessor. What happens at the end of the term? As explained earlier, at the end of the term, the lessee has various options in operating lease, that either it can request for extension of lease, either it can request for kind of returning the equipment to the lessor, or it can even request to buy back the equipment at the fair market value. The fourth option, it can even request for half equipment being returned, half being going for a technology refresh, and an entire new lease can be rewritten. And if it's a finance lease, by virtue of the transaction being finance lease, usually and generally the entire equipment simply at the end of the term gets transferred to the lessee at the pre-agreed terms that between the lessor and the lessee. The next question usually asked by people is, can option to purchase be given? If yes, can value be decided? Yes, if there is an intent and understanding and implied interest between the lessor and lessee that I will want to purchase the equipment and no way that I will want to use for such short period, I may want to use for 15 years, 12 years, 20 years, then the option to purchase can be given, but there has to be an understanding between lessor and lessee. If the option is given at a predetermined rate, value to be decided, then it will qualify for finance lease. If it is open-ended, only and only then will it qualify for it to be an operating lease. Can asset be upgraded during the lease tenure? Yes, it can be upgraded. As I said, during the midterm or at the end of the term, the lessee can be given that option to go for upgrade of the equipment, go for exchange of the equipment, or just may add some ancillary tools to the equipment during the lease tenure. It can do that. And the entire lease can be rewritten, and during that period, it can actually be even given the flexibility of extended period of lease, or whatever its cash flow is, the rentals can be redefined on those rates. What is the accounting and tax treatment? I think we have covered that adequately in the previous slides. You can again go back and refer to that if somebody has further queries on that, because this usually ends up becoming the most confusing part for the customer. Then a separate email may be written to me and we will definitely address that question. What is the interest rate or the IRR of the transaction? Let me tell you, if it's a finance lease, frankly, it is anyone's guess. You can, just simply plot the cash flows, the rental amount, and you know what is the principal interest breakup. The lessor only is mandatorily required to provide to you, so you know what is the cost of, interest rate that you're paying. If it is a operating lease, it's a risk. It's a risk that lessor has taken on the residual value. Then it cannot kind of, expose that risk or inform about that risk to the lessee, because that's a separate team even at the lesser side which actually takes a judgmental or a risk call on the equipment. But usually, as we explained earlier, when it is an operating lease, the rentals are much lower than finance lease. So obviously the rentals are lower, so the cost of borrowing for the lessee also in that case is much, much lower than the normal financing rate or the loan rate or the investment rate that is. The last slide is people ask that what kind of goods can be leased. So anything that qualifies to be called as an equipment, unless it is a specialized equipment, it will not qualify for operating lease. But anything which is a general equipment, whether it is your capital goods used for your business, production, or logistics machinery, your ATM machines, your construction equipment, your car leasing, your office furniture, your lighting, or IT equipments, hospital, medical, healthcare equipments, power backup equipments, rooftop solar equipments, any of this power energy in any industry, any energy, any industry, any kind of equipment which is can be, which is not really having too much of civil work and built or fabricated at the site of the lessee, can qualify for and under equipment lease, especially under the operating lease program. On that note, I will kind of end my session and just say that one state, whether your priority is to conserve capital, obtain flexible payments, or avoid tapping credit or replace obsolete equipment, Tata Capital has a plan for you. To know Tata Capital's leasing solution, we can learn how we can help your business. You can write to us at leasing@tatacapital.com. Thank you very much for this session. Thank you for being so participative.